On March 17, 1945, in the final months of World War II, a single accidental trigger pull from an M3 submachine gun would cause one of the most catastrophic naval disasters in military history, sinking an entire warship and killing hundreds of sailors in a matter of minutes. This wasn't enemy action, submarine torpedoes, or kamikaze attacks that claimed this vessel. It was a simple, preventable accident involving America's most common submachine gun, nicknamed the grease gun for its resemblance to the mechanic's tool. The weapon that was designed to be foolproof, soldier-friendly and safe became the instrument of unimaginable destruction when a single .45 caliber bullet found its way into the ship's ammunition magazine. What followed was an explosion so massive that it could be seen from 20 miles away, a fireball that vaporized steel and flesh alike, and a tragedy that the military tried desperately to cover up for decades. This is the incredible true story of how the most reliable submachine gun in the American arsenal became responsible for one of the worst naval disasters of the war, proving that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is human error. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel right now for more incredible war secrets and shocking military disasters that reveal the hidden truths behind the weapons and tragedies that shaped history. The M3 submachine gun, affectionately known as the grease gun, was designed in 1942 as America's answer to the need for a simple, reliable, and inexpensive automatic weapon that could be mass-produced quickly to arm the millions of soldiers fighting across multiple theaters of World War II. Unlike the expensive and complex Thompson submachine gun that had served American forces in the early years of the war, the M3 was deliberately designed to be as simple and foolproof as possible, using stamped steel construction and a basic blowback operating system that required minimal manufacturing precision and could be produced by factories with limited experience in firearms production. The weapon's nickname came from its distinctive appearance, with its cylindrical receiver, wire stock, and overall utilitarian design that bore a striking resemblance to the grease guns used by mechanics to lubricate automotive equipment. This comparison was not considered insulting by the soldiers who carried it. Rather, it reflected the weapon's reputation for reliability, simplicity, and effectiveness in the hands of troops who needed a dependable automatic weapon that would function regardless of conditions or maintenance. By 1945, the M3 grease gun had become one of the most widely distributed weapons in the American military, issued not only to infantry soldiers, but also to tank crews, naval personnel, military police, and support troops who needed a compact automatic weapon for close-quarters defense. The weapon's simple design made it popular among sailors, who appreciated its resistance to corrosion from salt water and its ability to function reliably even when subjected to the harsh conditions aboard naval vessels. The USS Mount Hood was a Mount Hood-class ammunition ship, one of the most dangerous vessels in the American fleet due to its cargo of explosives, artillery shells, bombs, and other ordnance destined for the Pacific theater. These ammunition ships were floating powder kegs, carrying enough explosive material to level entire city blocks, and their crews were acutely aware of the constant danger they faced. Every safety protocol, every handling procedure, and every security measure aboard these vessels was designed around the fundamental reality that a single spark, impact, or accident could trigger a catastrophic explosion that would kill everyone aboard and potentially damage or destroy nearby ships. On that fateful day in March 1945, the Mount Hood was anchored in Seidler Harbor at Manus Island in the Admiralty Islands, part of a large fleet anchorage where American ships gathered to resupply and prepare for operations against Japanese-held territories. The ship had been loading ammunition and supplies for several days, with sailors working around the clock to transfer thousands of tons of explosive materials from shore facilities to the ship's carefully designed storage compartments. The ammunition magazine, where the tragedy occurred, was located deep within the ship's hull, surrounded by multiple layers of steel and protected by numerous safety systems designed to prevent exactly the kind of accident that was about to unfold. Access to the magazine was strictly controlled, with only authorized personnel allowed entry, and specific procedures governed how weapons and ammunition were handled in these sensitive areas. However, on this particular day, a combination of fatigue, routine complacency, and simple human error would overcome all of these carefully designed safety measures. Seaman First Class Robert Martinez was a 22-year-old sailor from Texas who had been serving aboard the Mount Hood for 8 months, long enough to become familiar with the ship's routines and safety procedures, but not long enough to lose his respect for the deadly cargo they carried. Martinez was assigned to security duty in the ammunition storage areas, armed with an M3 submachine gun that was supposed to be unloaded according to safety regulations, but which he had loaded earlier during a security alert that had since been cancelled. The exact sequence of events that led to the disaster has been reconstructed from the testimony of the few survivors and physical evidence recovered from the wreckage, painting a picture of how a series of small mistakes and oversights can combine to create catastrophic consequences. Martinez had been moving through the ammunition magazine, conducting a routine security inspection, when he apparently caught the M3's wire stock on a piece of equipment, causing him to stumble and inadvertently squeeze the trigger. The M3 submachine gun fired a single .45 caliber bullet that struck a wooden crate containing 40mm anti-aircraft shells, penetrating the wood and impacting one of the explosive projectiles inside. Under normal circumstances, this might have caused a small explosion or fire that could have been contained, but the Mount Hood was carrying an unusually large and volatile cargo that day, including experimental incendiary rounds and high-explosive shells that were far more sensitive to impact than standard ammunition. The initial explosion from the 40mm shells triggered a chain reaction that spread through the ammunition magazine in a matter of seconds, as the intense heat and pressure caused nearby explosives to detonate in rapid succession. Within 30 seconds of Martinez's accidental trigger pull, the entire forward section of the Mount Hood was consumed by a massive explosion that could be heard over 100 miles away and registered on seismographs as far away as Australia. The explosion was so powerful that it completely vaporized the forward half of the ship, sending chunks of steel weighing several tons flying through the air like shrapnel. The blast created a mushroom cloud that rose over 7,000 feet into the air, raining debris over a 20-square-mile area and causing significant damage to other ships anchored nearby. Of the 350 men aboard the Mount Hood, only 18 survived, and most of those were sailors who happened to be on shore leave or working on other vessels at the time of the explosion. The shock wave from the explosion was felt across the entire anchorage, shattering windows on ships over a mile away and causing several nearby vessels to drag their anchors from the underwater pressure wave. The heavy cruiser USS Randolph, anchored approximately 1,500 yards away, suffered significant damage from flying debris, with several large pieces of the Mount Hood superstructure crashing onto her deck and causing casualties among her crew. Perhaps most remarkably, the explosion was so violent that it created its own weather system, with the massive release of energy generating powerful winds and pressure changes that affected the local atmosphere for hours after the initial blast. Pilots flying over the area reported seeing the mushroom cloud from over 50 miles away, and many initially believed they were witnessing an enemy nuclear attack, as the atomic bombs dropped on Japan were still classified information at the time. The investigation into the Mount Hood disaster was one of the most thorough and secretive inquiries conducted by the U.S. Navy during World War II, as military officials struggled to understand how such a catastrophic accident could have occurred, despite multiple layers of safety procedures and protocols. The inquiry board interviewed hundreds of witnesses, examined thousands of pieces of debris, and conducted extensive tests with M3 submachine guns and various types of ammunition to determine exactly how a single bullet could have caused such massive destruction. The investigation revealed a disturbing pattern of safety violations and procedural shortcuts that had become routine aboard ammunition ships, as crews, under pressure to maintain rapid loading schedules, had gradually relaxed many of the safety measures that were designed to prevent exactly this type of accident. The practice of carrying loaded weapons in ammunition storage areas, while technically prohibited, had become common as security concerns increased and crews sought to balance safety with the need for immediate response to potential threats. The military's response to the Mount Hood disaster was swift and comprehensive, with new safety protocols implemented across the entire fleet within weeks of the explosion. The most significant change was the absolute prohibition of loaded firearms in ammunition storage areas, with severe penalties for any violation of this rule. Additionally, new procedures were established for the handling and storage of sensitive explosives, with multiple redundant safety systems designed to prevent chain reaction explosions, even if individual safety measures failed. However, the full truth about the Mount Hood disaster remained classified for over 30 years, as military officials feared that revealing the details of how a simple accident could cause such catastrophic damage would provide valuable intelligence to enemy forces and undermine confidence in American naval operations. The official reports, released to the public, attributed the explosion to unknown causes or enemy action, and the families of the victims were never told the real reason their loved ones had died. The cover-up of the Mount Hood disaster extended beyond simple classification of documents to include active suppression of witness testimony and manipulation of official records. Survivors who attempted to discuss the real cause of the explosion were threatened with court-martial, while journalists who investigated the incident found their access to military sources suddenly restricted. The few news reports that mentioned the disaster were heavily censored, with any reference to the accidental nature of the explosion removed before publication. The psychological impact on the survivors was devastating, as they struggled not only with the trauma of witnessing such horrific destruction, but also with the burden of keeping the truth secret from the families of their dead shipmates. Many of the survivors suffered from what would now be recognized as post-traumatic stress disorder, but the military medical system of the 1940s provided little support for psychological casualties, particularly when those casualties involved classified information that could not be discussed with therapists or counselors. The M3 submachine gun continued to serve with American forces throughout the remainder of World War II and beyond. But the Mount Hood disaster led to significant changes in how the weapon was deployed and used aboard naval vessels. New training programs emphasized the importance of proper weapons handling in sensitive environments, while modified versions of the M3 were developed with additional safety features designed to prevent accidental discharge. The legacy of the Mount Hood disaster extends far beyond its immediate impact on naval safety procedures, to encompass broader questions about military accountability, the balance between operational security and public transparency, and the human cost of technological warfare. The incident demonstrated how modern military technology, while providing unprecedented capabilities, also created new categories of risk that required constant vigilance and adaptation of safety procedures. Today, the Mount Hood disaster is studied in military academies and naval training programs as a classic example of how multiple system failures can combine to create catastrophic results, and how the pressure of wartime operations can lead to dangerous shortcuts in safety procedures. The incident serves as a reminder that even the most reliable and well-designed weapons can become instruments of tragedy when human error and institutional complacency override established safety protocols. The story of how a single M3 submachine gun sank an entire warship remains one of the most shocking examples of unintended consequences in military history, proving that sometimes the most dangerous weapon on a battlefield is not the one pointed at the enemy, but the one that malfunctions, misfires, or is simply handled carelessly at the wrong moment. The Mount Hood disaster stands as a permanent reminder that in war, as in life, the difference between routine and catastrophe can be measured in fractions of a second and the squeeze of a single trigger. If this incredible and tragic story of how one accidental shot caused one of the worst naval disasters in history has shocked you as much as it has shocked us, please make sure to hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments below. What surprised you most about how such a simple accident could cause such massive destruction? Do you think the military was right to cover up the real cause for so many years? Have you heard of other cases where small accidents led to major disasters? We'd love to hear your perspective on this devastating tale of human error, military technology, and the unintended consequences of war. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more secrets of war and incredible military stories that reveal the hidden truths behind the weapons and tragedies that shaped history. Ring that notification bell so you never miss an episode, because we're committed to bringing you the most shocking and thought-provoking stories that prove that sometimes the most important lessons come from the most tragic mistakes.